Hi, welcome back. So we are going to continue from here where we stopped in the previous session, and we are still in the history section of the Old Testament. Okay, and under part 1 where we are discussing about the patriarchs and Moses. Okay, we have not even entered into the patriarchs yet now. So what we have covered previously was Adam, okay, and Noah, and also the Tower of Babel, and from there people spread to different places of the world. And now we are going to see only at this place, okay. And then uh Shem, okay, Noah's son from the line of Shem. So Abraham's family, okay, ended up here in a place called okay. Then from here, right, God asked them to go to Haran. Okay, so the whole family, Abraham and his nephew Lot, okay, and so his father Terah, they moved to Haran. Okay, and from Haran, God asked Abraham. At that time, there's no Isaac yet, okay, not born yet. So at that time, God asked Abraham to go to this land, okay, which is the promised land, the land of Canaan. Okay, this is a very important land, okay, later as we would see, because it is right at the center of the whole world. And people from Europe, okay, who wants to come down to Asia, okay, would pass by this road. And also from Egypt, okay, who wants to go up to Russia, okay, or to this part of the world, would go through this road, this part as well. Okay, so this Israel, right, modern Israel, or the promised land at that time, Canaan, right, it's a crossroad between of the whole world, actually, we can say. Okay, so it's very busy, okay, and a lot of wars going on. Okay, after that we will see in the Old Testament. So this is a very key place, okay, just planted right in the center of the world for everyone to see God's plan to Israel. So wonderful, isn't it? It's not a coincidence that the promised land is here. Okay, so from Haran, God asked Abraham and Sarah, okay, to move to this place, Canaan, okay, where the Canaanites are. And Canaanites are descendants of of Ham. Okay, remember Noah's son, the third son, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, the third son. Okay, so from there we have the Canaanites. So they settled down here. So now God asked Abraham to move to this area, in this region. And then of course God promised him that he would give him this land, okay, and will bless him with a lot of descendants, as many as the stars of the heaven and the sands of the sea. Okay, but at that time, right, when Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were here, right, the land is not theirs yet. Okay, they were just shepherds there. Okay, the land belongs to the Canaanites. Okay, so we have here, so Abraham settled down here, and then after that we have Isaac, okay, born at an old age to Abraham. Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah was about 90 years old when Isaac was delivered. Okay, then after Isaac, then we have the story of Jacob. Okay, Jacob is a twin with his twin brother Esau. Okay, remember Jacob holding his brother's heel. Esau came up first, but Jacob holding his heel and came up, okay, second. So they are twins. So, okay, fast forward from there, we have the story of Jacob. Okay, Jacob had 12 sons, okay, and this is the 12 sons of Israel, okay, or the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, so uh, so Jacob is Abraham's grandson, okay, Isaac's son. Okay, so God has chose this family, okay, to reveal his purpose. So they are called the forefathers of Israel, okay. And from Jacob we have the 12 tribes of Israel, which is this 12. Okay, uh okay, this is in order, okay. Reuben is the firstborn, Benjamin is the last. And out of all this, right, these 12, right, there are two that I think you should know, okay, for the purpose of an overview. First one is Joseph. Later we are going to look at the story of Joseph, okay, what happened to him later. And the other one is Judah. Why Judah? Because Jesus came from the line of Judah. Okay. mm. Okay, so one day uh, they were out in the field, okay, shepherding, and then doing some work out there. The 12, the 10 or some of them, okay, 10 or 11 of them mm, were out there at the field. And then uh, okay, Joseph is Jacob's favorite son, okay, out of the 12. And Jacob has dreams, okay. uh, so okay, so what happened was the brothers, right, decided, because of envy, okay, because of jealousy of Joseph, they decided to sell Joseph to Egypt, okay, because Joseph had a dream, okay, saying that, right, all his brothers and even his father would bow down to him, okay. And Joseph told all of them his dream. So because of that, they are very envious of Joseph. And one day, okay, when some people passed by, okay, and they decided to sell Joseph, okay, to Egypt, okay. So Joseph was sold to Egypt, okay, from here, okay. So Joseph, remember, it's Jacob's son. So Joseph was sold to Egypt here, okay. And what happened to him? Okay, miserable at first, okay, he went into jail, okay, but in the end he was promoted to become the prime minister, okay, the main person after Pharaoh of Egypt, okay. So he was promoted. So after he was promoted, what happened? Okay, God gave Pharaoh is the ruler of Egypt, okay, or the king of Egypt. So God gave Pharaoh some dreams, okay, telling Pharaoh that uh, okay, give him some dreams. And then Pharaoh asked people to interpret for him, but nobody can interpret besides Joseph, okay. So that dream, right, the message is there will be 7 years of plenty, okay, where you would have a lot of harvest, a lot of grains, a lot of food. But after that, right, there will be uh, a 7 year period as well, where you would have famine, okay. The people would suffer because the land won't grow grains, okay. So Pharaoh elected Joseph to be the prime minister, okay, or to be the second ruler of Egypt, okay. So during that 7 year period, right, Joseph all gathered kept some, okay, of the grains, so that in the next 7 year period they would have enough grain, okay, to supply the nation of Egypt, okay. So when the 7 year period of plentiness ended, okay, then we have the 7 years of famine. So during the 7 years, right, of course the famine spread, okay, not only in Egypt but also to the land of Canaan. So remember who is in Canaan? The 12 tribes of Israel, right, except Joseph, okay. So Jacob and his sons are still in Canaan, okay. And only Joseph was sold, remember. But actually the brothers told the father, right, Jacob, that Joseph is dead already, okay. He was torn by some wild beasts. So all the while Jacob thought that Joseph uh, has died, okay. So because of this famine, right, they heard that Egypt, okay, has supply, right, and they don't have any more supply in the land of Canaan where they are. So Jacob sent his sons, okay, to come to Egypt to get some food from Joseph, okay. So that's how, okay. So after that they made a few trips, okay, and in the end Joseph reconciled with his family, okay, and told the brothers that he is actually Joseph, okay, the one that you saw, okay. So Joseph said, God meant it, sorry, you saying to the brothers, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, okay. So God always has a plan for Joseph, okay. Even though during the early years, right, it was not that good, he was thrown into prison, and people have forsaken him, but in the end he was promoted to be the prime minister of Egypt. Okay, and after that he reconciled with his family during this 7-year period of famine, and then because of that he asked his family to come and stay with him. So Jacob, along with all his sons and his descendants, right, 70 of them, okay, came down to the land of Egypt. So that's how this nation this family, right, all of them ended up in Egypt. Okay, and keep in mind that this is the nation whom God has promised to give them a land, okay, and to give them a lot of descendants, but it has not been realized yet. But the promise is given, okay, or a covenant is given to Abraham, and then to Isaac, and then to Jacob. Okay, and here, so Jacob and family came to Egypt to Joseph, okay, and then they ended up there, and then that's where uh, the book of Genesis ends. Okay, we have covered so much, and yet it's just one book out of the 39 books. Okay, so now we will continue on with the books of Exodus to up to Deuteronomy, the following 4 books. Okay, which are called, these 5 books are called the book of Moses as well. Okay, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Maybe this section is not your favorite section, maybe, right? Maybe some of you really hate the book of Leviticus because it's so hard to read. Okay, so now we are going to cover this in an overview. Okay, so of course we have this small baby called Moses. At that time, because the Israelites, okay, in the book of Genesis, we ends with the whole family of Jacob in Egypt. Okay, and then we have about 4,000 silent period. Okay, at that time, still remember the year of Abraham? Which year is he in? 2000 BC, right? Okay, and then after that, right, after Jacob and his family came down to Egypt, right, then there's about 4,000 silent period. Okay, and then when we start with the book of Exodus, right, it jumps forward, okay, 400 years, and we have this story of Moses already. Okay, after how many generation? Okay, so okay, from there what happened was the Israelites grew in numbers. Okay, they have a lot, so Pharaoh didn't like it. Okay, so he say, right, all the male descendants born to the Jews, right, or the Israelites, right, should be killed. Okay, but Moses' mother kept him in a basket. Okay, kept him for 3 months, then after that put him in a basket, okay, beside a bush, in hope that maybe Pharaoh's daughter or someone, okay, from the royal family would come and take Moses and grow him up as her own child, maybe. Okay, and so that happened. Okay, so she put him in a basket at the bush, okay, beside the water where Pharaoh's daughter would go for a bath. Okay, and then Pharaoh's daughter took him up, okay, and raised him up as her own child. But actually Moses was under the care of his sister, okay, all the time until when he was a bit older. Then uh, he grew up in the palace after that. Okay, so this is the story of Moses. And then after he grew up, right, he has some dispute with his own people, the Israelites in Egypt. Okay, that's where he was very upset. Okay, and he went when he was 40 years old. Okay, he went to Midian. Okay, and that's where he married. Okay, and where his father-in-law was. Okay, and where he had sons also. And then during that 40-year period, he spent in Midian and also in the land here. Okay, shepherding, being a shepherd. So the first 40 years period he spent in Egypt, and the second 40 years period he spent in this area in the land of Midian, okay, where he was shepherding, okay, for his father-in-law, Jethro. Okay, and then, right, one day at the mouth of Horeb, okay, God called Moses. Okay, you remember the call? Okay, it's his mission to bring the Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land. Okay, and remember Moses gave a lot of excuses saying, but who am I that you call me? Okay, I can't speak well. Okay, what happens if Pharaoh don't believe me? Okay, so in the mountain. But in the end, he submitted to God, okay, and he agreed to go. Okay, so when he was 80 years, right, he went back to Egypt and bring the people out from Egypt. Okay, so Moses life, right, can be divided into 3 40-year period. Okay, he died at the age of 120. Okay, so Moses at the age of 40 had a dispute here with his own people, Israelites, and then he was very upset. Then he came to Midian and stayed there for 40 years. Then after that, at Mount Horeb, okay, God called Moses, okay, to lead the people out of Egypt. And then from there, uh, from there we have the story of Exodus, okay, where Moses brought the people out of Egypt. And then of course, right, it was not easy at all. Okay, Pharaoh always agreed, and then after that regretted. Okay, and then don't let them go away again. So God needs to send plagues after plagues. Okay, locusts, okay, plagues of disease, the water turns into blood, those kind of thing. Okay, plagues after plagues. And this is the last plague, where we have the Passover festival that the Jews are still celebrating today. Okay, and even in the New Testament, Jesus was killed, okay, in this ceremony, in this festival, remember. Okay, so what happened, right, how this festival came about, right, is during the last plague. Okay, uh, God said, okay, for all the Israelites, right, okay, on this night, right, you need to put blood, okay, on your door frames, okay, so that when the angel of death, okay, pass over at that night, it will only kill, okay, the firstborn of those of the Egyptians, but not the Israelites. Okay, so this act of putting the blood on your door frame can save you, okay, save all your firstborn in your family from death. Okay, so at that night, okay, the angel of death passed over Egypt, and all the Egyptian families, their firstborn died. Okay, but the Israelites are safe. Okay, so from that point on, God asked the Israelites to celebrate this festival year after year, okay, to remember this incident where God saved the Israelites and took them out of Egypt on this night. Okay, so this is where we get the Passover, and this is the last plague. And then after that, Moses managed to bring the people, finally the Israelites, out of Egypt. Okay, and what happened? Then we have the Exodus. Okay, Exodus meaning exit. Okay, to exit from Exodus. And many years after this, okay, on the mountain, you remember the transfiguration of Jesus? Okay, Jesus, who appeared, two-person, right? Moses and Elijah. And do you know what they are talking about? The book of Luke, okay, chapter 9 tells us that they are talking about the Exodus. Okay, but this time it's not Moses Exodus, but Jesus Exodus. Okay. So okay, we have the Exodus from here. Okay, Moses led the people out of Egypt. Okay, and he crossed the, this is the Red Sea. Okay, where we have the Red Sea. Remember, Moses parts the sea. Okay, the very famous story, everybody knows that. Okay, and then the Israelites passed through the sea, and then when the Egyptian armies entered, then the sea collapsed, okay, and came down on them, and all of them were drowned and they died. Then remember, okay, then after that, okay, essentially, right, their aim is to reach Canaan. Okay, the promised land. Remember where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was? Okay, they were here. So okay, so they crossed the Red Sea and they came to this place called Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb. Okay, where God gave them the law. Okay, where you have the book of Leviticus here. Okay, gave the law. Then after that, they made the journey up here to Kadesh Barnea. Actually, it's already at the border of the land, the promised land where God had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But because of their disobedience, right, they need to wander here for 40 years, in the wilderness, okay, go around the promised land before they can enter. Okay, because of that, actually from here to here, it's only about less than a month journey. Okay, you can reach here straight away. But because of their disobedience, God punished them with 40 years. And in the 40 years, right, uh, all the people except Joshua and Caleb, okay, died. Okay, those that are more than 20 years old. Okay, the whole generation, the first, when they came here, right, okay, there are about 6,000 of those who are more than 20 years old. And when you come here, right, the whole 6,000 of them died, okay, and there's a whole new generation of another 600,000, okay, and this is recorded in the book of Numbers, okay, this journey. Okay, and then and then the book of Deuteronomy, right, is the setting is here, okay. Remember Leviticus, God gave them the law, okay, so the book of Deuteronomy is like a second law to remind them, because it's a new generation, okay, so to remind them of the law before they enter into the promised land, so that when they enter into the promised land they will remember to observe the law of Moses, okay. So the setting of Deuteronomy is here. Okay, so just to recap again slightly, okay, so Moses took them out of Egypt and crossed the Red Sea, and we have at Mount Sinai giving of the law, okay, and then we have the book of Numbers telling us about this journey where the 600,000 is replaced by the second generation of 600,000, okay, and then okay, why right, why these 40 years, right, and why the change of the generation is because, right, they sent spies into this land of Canaan, remember, 12 spies, and then out of the 12, right, only two of them, Joshua and Caleb, said that we should go in, okay. If God is with us, right, there's no fear, even though the people there are very tall, very big size, and very strong, but the 10 of them, right, say that no, we shouldn't go in, okay, and they curse Moses, okay, and the whole nation of Israel also tell Moses, why not you just let us die in the wilderness, or at least we stay in Egypt, okay, so that we don't, at least we don't need to be oppressed by all these people here and going to be killed, okay. So because of that, God was very angry, because this was the land that God has promised, and God would surely bless them, okay, and would grant them this land, but because of their uh, they don't trust God for that, okay, that's why God needs to punish them for 40 years here, okay, before they go in again. So the book of Deuteronomy ends here, okay, just before they enter the promised land, okay. So just a quick recap, uh okay, so remember after the Tower of Babel, okay, people were spread across the earth, okay, and the family of Abraham and his father and his nephew Lot end up here, and then God called them to go to Haran, okay. Okay, sorry, before that, okay, so what we have covered, right, is at first we have covered the story of creation, then we have the story of Adam, okay, and then Noah about 3000 BC, remember, and then by the time of Abraham it's about 2000 BC already, okay, and then we have Abraham's son Isaac and his grandson Jacob, and from Jacob we have the 12 tribes of Israel, okay, all his 12 sons, and I asked you to remember two of them, remember the story of Joseph, okay, and also the Joseph and also Judah is where Jesus comes from, and Joseph is made the prime minister of Egypt, remember, okay, and that's okay. And then after that we have the story of Moses. So up to Jacob, right, or up to Joseph, right, uh these are covered in the book of Genesis, okay, and the book of Genesis ends with all the Israelites, okay, actually only about 70 of them, the whole family of Jacob, okay, ended up in Egypt, okay, and in Exodus, okay, for 400 years, about 400 years after that, right, then we have a bigger nation of Israel, okay, because they multiply, okay, they were under slavery under Egypt actually, okay, and they multiply, okay, and that's the generation, that's the time when Moses was born, and Moses was okay, and we have the story of Moses starting from Exodus up to Deuteronomy, okay. So the book of Genesis, right, okay, so these are called the five books of Moses, or the law of Moses, or Pentateuch, okay, or the Torah, okay, all these are similar, same, okay, they refer to these five books. So these five books are a distinct section of the Old Testament, okay, even in the history section these five books are distinct because it is the foundation, okay, of the whole Old Testament, and also the foundation of the whole Bible, because we have the story of creation here, Genesis meaning the beginning, okay, the beginning of God revealing his promise to Abraham, okay, making a covenant with Abraham that through him all the nations will be blessed. Okay, that's why today we can receive the gospel. Okay. So that's why it is the foundation of the whole Old Testament and also the whole Bible. That's why these five books are really very important. And okay, so they are a distinct section of the Old Testament. And so Genesis, okay, from Genesis, remember, okay, we have the story of Abraham coming from Ur to a place called Haran, then after that coming down to this promised land and then settled down here. Okay, although at that time the land was not given to Abraham yet. Okay, so we have the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob here in Genesis, and then they ended up in Egypt, remember, under slavery. Okay, and then under Moses, okay, we have the Exodus, the book of Exodus, where Moses took them out of Egypt. And then at Mount Sinai, okay, we have the giving of the law. Okay, remember the book of Leviticus. And then in the book of Numbers, we have the journey, okay, from Mount Sinai all the way up to here, okay, at the border of the promised land before they enter the promised land. So and then just before they enter the promised land, God reminded them again, or Moses reminded them again about the law. Okay, so we have the book of Deuteronomy. So the book of Deuteronomy is some sort similar to Leviticus. Okay. So before they enter, God wants to remind them of the law so that when they go into the land, they would remember to obey, okay, the commandments. So this ends the five books. Okay, the five books, the history ends here, and then in part 2, okay, we would see how they enter into the promised land, the land of Canaan. Okay, so we would end here and we would continue with part 2 in the following video. Thank you.